Hey everyone, it's Christine Gritman here with Social. I do this show just about every Friday at 12 noon Eastern Time, where I interview awesome guests about social media. And today I'm here with one of my favorite duos, Jim and Tim of the Tim and Jim Show. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to put them in the proper order. I had some technical difficulties. Those of you who watch the show know I have a lot of technical difficulties. I'm better at talking than I am at the tech. So anyway, hi Tim and Jim, how are you?
We're doing great. And Tim, you go first since it's the Tim and Jim Show. We always let you go first.
Oh, here we go. Thank you so much for having us, Christine.
Yay! So tell us about yourself. You first, Tim.
Oh, me first. No pressure. Yes. Okay, sure. So my name's Tim Sohn. I own a business called Sohn Social Media Solutions, where we help small and medium businesses increase sales and exposure through social media management, social media trainings, and also through some public relations service. We find that a combination of social and PR really works well together, especially on the local level for businesses. So that's my business. I've had my business for 5 years. Before that, I worked in journalism for kind of like you, Christine, right? Yeah. You also worked in journalism.
So many people come to social media from journalism. It's funny. It's like a feeder industry.
Yeah, for sure. So I worked in journalism for more than 12 years, and then hopped into the social media industry, and I'm loving it. And I was also a stay-at-home dad for 6 years.
Cool.
Which I loved as well.
Nice. And where are you geographically?
I'm located in the woods of Northeast Pennsylvania in a little town called Shohola, which has a population, I Googled it the other day, of almost 3,000 people.
Wow.
And there might be more bears than people, I'm not sure.
Awesome. All right, now you're up, Jim. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so Jim Fuhs of Fusion Marketing, and I am a retired Marine Lieutenant Colonel who has become a social media trainer, speaker, and consultant. I live in the Marietta, Georgia area, as I have been married now 8 months to my wife, Karen, who we met in 3rd grade and actually reconnected on Facebook about 3 years ago.
God
so
bless the internet.
Sometimes social media does do good things, not all the time.
And anyone who's at Social Media Marketing World 2019 met your lovely bride.
Yes, and that was her 2nd year there. She's actually a court reporter, and so not this year, but in 2018, we both went as attendees. I dragged her along because it was fun, and then she volunteered along with me this past year. And as you know, that's when Tim and I actually met in person for the first time, which was also the photo you used for the show. But
yes.
But yeah, we've been doing this show for many months before we actually first physically met. So it's interesting what you can do with social if you do it for good.
I love that. And that is a perfect segue into what I was going to ask next, which is, so you guys started the Tim and Jim Show before you guys had actually met in person. So how did that happen? How did you come together?
It was Tim's idea.
So what happened was, me and Jim are both follow an online marketer. She goes by the nickname One Click Lindsay, but her real name is Lindsay Anderson. You guys should all check her out. So she and another online marketer whose name is also Lindsay, but spelled differently, Lindsay Phillips, they were doing a weekly Facebook Live show called Marketing and Merlot.
It's not called the Lindsay and Lindsay Show?
No,
Marketing and Merlot.
Well, that's a pretty good name too.
So they spontaneously brought Jim on the show one day on video, and he was talking about IG, both to hold myself accountable, but to bring other perspectives and guests on the show. And so I reached out to Jim after I saw him on the show, and I said, "Hey, do you want to be on my show?" It wasn't the Tim and Jim Show yet because there was no Jim yet, but I brought him on the show to talk about Google My Business. But long story short, after that, I asked him if he wanted to do a show together, and that's how it rolled, right, Jim?
Yes, and it was a great for me, like, transition from in 18, I met Kelly Noble Mirabella at the end of Social Media Marketing World, and I joined a challenge group she had to do Facebook Live. So I had started to do a little bit with live. So this really, exactly to Tim's point, forced me to stay accountable to not only myself but to someone else, and we have been consistent week in, week out since August of last year doing the show.
That. And it's great that you mentioned Kelly, because she also briefly had a show where she was co-hosting with Amanda Robinson. They had the Amanda and Kelly show for a little bit. So that's another duo.
That's where I got these headphones. I won them off the show.
Oh, nice.
And my microphone as well.
Oh, I love that. So how did you guys figure out what type of a show you guys were going to have together?
Tim?
You're like, it's all you, buddy.
Well, we both had a background in social media. We both had a background in social media, but I also had a background in journalism, and we're both entrepreneurs. This is the fifth year of my business. Jim, this is what?
Fourth.
How many years? Your fourth year.
Yeah.
Cool. So I don't know. I think we thought there was a need to blend a combination of marketing, PR, and entrepreneurship. Our audience is really small business owners, but we've also built up a tribe of marketers, especially people who have been on our show.
Yeah, hi.
Including you.
Awesome.
Yeah, so and I think we just felt like it. Oh, go ahead. You're asking a question.
No, go ahead.
No, I think for us it was, part of it, it's the 4 E's of social media: educate, engage, entertain, and empower. Nice. So we look to bring these guests on that do that for our audience, and at the same time it allows Tim and I, because sometimes it's just Tim and I doing a show, so we're able to show it's not just the fact that we're bringing on these brilliant guests like yourself, but that also that we have knowledge. And so for us, I think it's really been about building not just the awareness of the Tim and Jim show, but the awareness of Sohn social media solutions and Fusion marketing as not just being people that can work with you in your own backyard, but really anywhere. And we're actually an international show because we've had guests from England and Portugal and Korea, because we had Ion, but of course now I guess she would no longer be considered an international show because she's
she could just
actually
go hang out at Tim's house.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
She's in Pennsylvania again, so that's good.
Exactly.
So that's great. So how do you? So do you guys?
And we.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say we also. I hope it's okay. I disclose this, Jim, but we also recently submitted an application to speak together at an event.
Ooh.
We did. We'll
love
see.
that.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I hope that happens. So in terms of running the show, do you guys, and especially at the beginning, I'm sure it's a lot smoother now, but how did you guys have a regular kind of meetup where you discuss what's going to happen in advance, what guests you want to bring on and all of that? How does that collaboration work?
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so he put me on the spot. So one of the funny things is, and Tim, I don't know if you realize this, so Tim and I talk over Facebook Messenger, either on video or audio. I don't actually know that I have Tim's phone number.
Oh, that's really funny.
Because that's how we communicate. And but what we do is we talk every week about like who would we like to get on the show. And so at first it was, a matter of we got some of the folks we knew, and I think as we got to know more people, and I think some of it was just that if you don't ask, you can't get an answer, right?
Yeah.
And we would ask people, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, they actually said yes. So, going to social media marketing world, we got to meet, some additional folks that were even, speakers that have all been, more than happy to be on the show. We going to Social Media World Lima. a couple weeks ago. I've also got a few more folks that wanted to join, and even like we've had Stephanie Liu on the show. She introduced me to Evie, and we had her on this past week, and Evie's now connected us with another person in the PR business. So what has been a great problem to now have is we now have a lineup of guests. It's a matter of finding the time to put them into the schedule, because it is only once a week. Mm-hmm. And so, but what we always do is we updated our graphic to where we have a consistent graphic. I think the next step at some point when we are together, we'll actually do a no kidding, like, hey, let's get a real picture together and not keep headshot things. We didn't think about that in San Diego. I think we got by the event.
Yeah, I was your photographer in San Diego.
Yes, yes, and so, but we talk about what questions we're going to ask the guest ahead of time, provide that to the guest, and one of the things we did is we switched from a program that shall remain nameless to StreamYard in about February, I believe, right, Tim?
I think I'm not exactly sure, but that sounds about right. Yeah.
And what StreamYard allows us to do is it allows us to build all the questions into the back end ahead of the show. So it's not a matter of having to struggle and type the questions as we go. Mm-hmm. It makes it very easy for us to manage the show. We can screen share. We did that this past week. We did some screen sharing, and it's a very stable platform. What we ran into challenges with in the past before we switched is we would sometimes have I would call it stability issues with the internet stream.
Yeah.
And, we had a couple times where like our guests, we couldn't hear them, and I used to think it was our equipment, but we're now convinced it was the platform that we were using.
I used to use that platform too, so I hear ya.
Yeah, and StreamYard has been amazing with the Gage and Dan, the co-founders. You talk about customer support, it's just amazing. I mean, in the group, they'll answer questions of people directly, mm-hmm. and they get back to people quickly. They're definitely solution providers. They're always asking, like, what do you guys want to do next? Last week, when Facebook went down again, we went live on YouTube for the first time.
And that was great that you could do that without switching up everything.
Yeah, and
I also actually, sorry, Jim, I also actually reached out to Gage. I just sent him a message on Facebook Messenger, and I said, hey, what's going on? What do you think we should do? And he said, either reschedule it or go on YouTube. So I said, hey, Jim, what do you think? He was like, we're going on YouTube. This is a good experiment, because we've never been on YouTube before with our show.
Right. And I think that's really, I would say, in the evolution of the show, where we plan to go more on, we might do the double stream of Facebook and YouTube. Mm-hmm. I recently applied, I can't remember if Tim did, for the LinkedIn Live, but I know that's a process. So I think that may be something we'll consider, but that might even be a different format, because I do think that maybe is one where it needs to be shorter stuff. And I know you're doing that midweek minute.
Yeah, I just
or maybe
started.
It's several minutes.
I've had 2 really scrappy LinkedIn Live broadcasts thus far. Neither has gone quite right. But yeah, I felt the same. I felt like even though I have my show that I do on Facebook, I felt like my LinkedIn show should be different.
Right.
Just because it's just such a different type of place. However, I think a Facebook Live show and a YouTube Live show, there's more commonality there in terms of what people are looking for. Probably. Did a lot of viewers follow you over?
We did get a few that subscribed. Of course, what was funny was we had just set up the Tim and Jim show channel. And so we weren't actually able to go live, so we actually had to go live on the Fusion Marketing YouTube channel because I had set it up a while ago. But so we'll start doing some repurposing to YouTube and get some of our previous shows out. And I think that's where I think what we've talked about, some people, I know I does a great job, go out to all these channels at once.
Yeah, she does, I think. I'm not I can't even remember how many different channels she does at once, but I know she does. I think it's 3. At least, I think it might be 4. I can't remember if she does, because I think she does Twitter.
I know she's on
yeah.
LinkedIn Live, YouTube, and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
But I think recently I think her show this past week, I think she was just on Facebook and YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong there, with Mitch Jackson.
I think she was on LinkedIn as well, because she said that she was having somebody actually monitoring the comments on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
she does do LinkedIn at the same time.
That's
No,
right.
Tim, she doesn't do Elo, but yeah, it's there's so many things now to be on. Getting back to the collaboration element, do you guys is it both of you doing similar things at the same time, and you're just like, you know what, we do it in a way that works really well together? Or when you're doing the Tim and Jim show, does each of you have a different strength that you bring to the table?
I don't know, Tim. What do you think?
Well, we both solicit guests for the show.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, how it works is, depending who solicits the guest, that person is the host on the StreamYard and setting everything up. In terms of strengths, I don't know. I mean, we both have very different backgrounds, right? Like, I have a journalism background. Jim has a military background, which is really cool. And we both, have focuses in different areas. Jim likes to call himself the producer, right?
That's what Adobe.
But he is way better at that tech stuff than I am.
Do you do more of the tech stuff? Is that what that's about?
Yeah, I set up the graphics for the show, and we've been using Canva.
Yep, that's what I use
for most of it, and then I'll put that together and I'll get Tim, the copy, and so then that way, we can both promote it on our networks. Like, because you have those little techie things, like, theoretically, if you put the link in your post, it doesn't do as well as if you put it in the comments.
You have to strategize all of that.
Right. So, we'll do the Twitter, we'll put it on Instagram, Facebook, as well as on LinkedIn. And I think probably the one weakness, at least for me, I don't know if Tim has done it yet, is like creating an email list and sending it out by email, like, hey, here's who we've got coming on this week. And I think that would maybe help. I send it out to my email list for my business. But it might be cool for us to set up a separate email list just like for the show, and we can promote it in the show.
And that brings me to another thing I wanted to mention, which is that at the moment the Tim and Jim show is basically simulcast as Sohn Social Media and Fusion Marketing, right?
Yes. We cross post.
Yes.
I think. Yes.
So is there any thought of maybe getting a Tim and Jim show account or anything? Like, what's the thought process been there?
I think we've thought that would just be another thing we don't want to have to do.
That's fair.
we already have. We have our individual followings on our social medias that are already developed. So, not that we're slackers or anything, but it would take a decent amount of time to dedicate to creating new channels, monitoring the channels, creating content for the channels, sending people from our already existing accounts over to a new channel. So,
but we have created the YouTube channel is its own Tim and Jim channel, and we're both whatever you want to call it, co-owners, co-managers. So that, I think, is really the goal, is that will be the channel, and it'll tie kind of that whole information, like if you want to visit Tim, go to this page, you want to visit Jim, go to this page. Because even though we collaborate and we do refer folks to each other, like if I hear somebody looking for PR help, I've referred them to Tim, and he'll do the same when it comes to Google My Business sort of things. But because we're in completely different geographic areas, we don't look at ourselves as competitors. We and we're, we collaborate, and it's like, hey, if there's some way I can help you, or vice versa, let me know. So I think from that perspective, we really haven't seen a need to combine outside of the YouTube, and that's more for people to find the show.
Yeah.
Because YouTube is the second biggest search engine after Google, so, and it's owned by the same company too. What a concept.
What's required in order for you to be able to go live from the Tim and Jim channel on YouTube?
We just have to add it to our dashboard, and actually we'd have to and we've got a Restream IO subscription,
Yep.
which is what StreamYard uses, and I think also Ecamm as well, and allow
Yes.
you to multi-stream. The reason we haven't used Ecamm is, I think, really, well, twofold. Is Tim is a Windows user,
Uh-huh.
and I think I've been
Tim.
concerned of the memory challenges.
Don't go there.
with Skype. So we've just stuck with StreamYard, but we may play around with on StreamYard. I think there is a way to use the Ecamm virtual cam.
Oh, interesting.
So we may experiment with that. Yeah, we've done. We have we both have like secret groups that we'll sometimes play around with features in,
I like
just to
that.
see how it looks, and then that way you can kind of experiment ahead of time. And that's actually something I would recommend to anyone that is starting out with live streaming, especially if you're using a new platform, by creating that secret Facebook group. And you just have to add one person. So you could even add, your significant other, and they won't watch it, but you can sit there, go live, see what the effects are of some of the things you're doing. Same thing with YouTube. You can do a private YouTube. I think the only issue with that is I don't know if you can always download the private YouTube. You would maybe have to do it as an unlisted presentation if you wanted to look at it and say, okay, I'm going to download this and repurpose it. But those are some of the things I've started to play with, and that I think we've been thinking about as well. I think the biggest challenge that we've seen is the transcription process. That I think is why we're interested in the YouTube part, because you hear all the time how people don't, they watch a show, but a lot of them have the volume off. So that's where it's a challenge if they can't see what you're saying. And I think that's where I think Ecamm, I think you can move where the transcription is to different parts and the fly-ins and stuff. But we're still novices in that, so that's.
Yeah, I haven't touched the transcription of live videos really so much, and that's definitely a challenge. So I guess my final question is, what do you think makes this collaboration work?
Well, from my perspective, I think that Tim and I respect each other, and I think we both have our own, in a sense, stories of where we've come from, a challenge in life. For me, it was going through a divorce and finally finding happiness. Tim has had some medical challenges in the past, and I have a lot of respect for how he's overcome that, and to be a success. Our personalities seem to get along well. I mean, he's a great guy. He's a family man, just like I am. Of course, my kids are a lot older, so I always joke with him how someday your kids won't be at home. It'll be nice. And
I'm like, don't rush it.
Yeah, right. Well, it happens before you know it. It really does. But I just think we seem to have a good vibe together. I mean, I had no idea what to expect. I mean, I think, like he said, he asked me on his show. I mean, here we are, almost. I was actually thinking, Tim, we probably need to go back and start creating episode numbers, because I saw Social Chatter's done 200 episodes, and I'm like, well,
I saw that.
We're actually, next month will be a year, I think, of us doing shows, and it's like, wow, I didn't realize that.
Happy anniversary.
It's awesome.
Almost.
Thanks.
All right, Tim, how about you? Why do you think it works so well to work with Jim?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with Jim that I think we have a good camaraderie, and I hear a lot of people say that we, I don't know, it's just kind of, a good fit. Our personalities fit each other. We both have backgrounds in social media. Even if somebody's one of our guests is having technical challenges, we can still keep we could start the show and we can answer the questions ourselves if we need to for a few minutes and keep things rolling. So I think both our personalities mesh well as we both have a strong background in in marketing.
Awesome.
And I think too that we're both positive people, and I think we bring that positive energy to. Well, I mean, you like Dunkin', right? Doesn't that make you positive?
I wish I had my cup.
That's right.
Aw.
That's our goal, is to get Dunkin' as a sponsor.
That would be fantastic.
Dunkin', do you hear us? Dunkin' Donuts.
That would
No,
be
there's no
great,
more
'cause
donuts.
America runs on Dunkin', so that would be fantastic.
We want the Tim and Jim show to run on Dunkin'.
That's
Tell
right.
us where we can find the Tim and
But
Jim
yeah,
show.
and you know, it's interesting.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that, but we definitely appreciate you bringing us on. I think this is the third time that we've been guest of somebody else, which is kind of a new thing for us. We're I don't know if the podcast got released yet, but we were on a podcast interview. But I know the podcast host had some family challenges going on, so I don't know if that episode has come out yet. But I would say the best place to find us is on Facebook on either one of our pages, which is, for me, is Fusion Marketing, and for Tim is Sohn Social Media Solutions. Even though I tell me should make it shorter, but that's okay.
I tell myself that too, and then I think about everything I have to do to make it shorter everywhere.
Yeah. Oh well, go back in time, get in your time machine and do it.
Exactly. The Tim and Jim show is every Wednesday at noon Eastern, both on the Sohn Social Media Solutions and Fusion Marketing Facebook pages.
That's right, and we also tell you who's coming on Twitter. We have a monthly recap of all of our guests. In fact, this week upcoming is Jeff Howell, who you remember was a speaker at Social Media World Lima. So we're excited about that.
Good for you.
Love them. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.